Hey everyone, Alyssa Lebrack, nutritionist and gut expert. We're back and we're going to talk about a fresh new topic tonight. I have actually quite a bit of support on our team, and many of our team members have been coming to me and bringing me the different things that they're hearing constantly in the group, our free Facebook group specifically. And it's interesting because one of the topics that we've been seeing a lot of lately is this pattern of food fear. And so we all decided as a team that it was probably going to be a good idea to come on and hash out this topic. And I've seen it a lot myself in practice over the years, just working with so many clients. I've also experienced it firsthand, the food fear and the food restriction that comes from having gut issues. This is very, very different than just your everyday relationship with food that some people struggle with. I'm talking about the direct result of having gut issues, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. You're trying to figure it out and it feels like it's the food and food gets the blame, and it ends up creating this really unhealthy dynamic. And that's what I wanted to hit on tonight together with you guys. So let's talk about it. We're going to talk about overcoming food fear and food restrictions when struggling with gut issues. But before I can even dive into the how do we deal with it, how do we work with it, we really need to talk about where does this come from? And the interesting thing is that this typically comes from this concept or this idea that food is the problem. Okay, now here's the reason why a lot of people get to this point where they think food is the problem. One, they eat and they bloat, or they eat, they get a reaction, they eat, they run to the toilet, they eat, they can't poop, they eat, they get any sort of reaction, they're like, Jesus, it must be the food. Food is the problem. Now, here's the other problem with this whole thing is that the health industry is fucked up. That's what it is. I had to just say it. It's fucked. Anyways, the health industry online, if you read blogs and all that stuff, they will tell you that food is the problem also. So you're trying to figure out your gut issues. You eat, you have a reaction. So you're feeling like it's the food. You start Googling and you come across I don't know, Joe Blow's blog, and they start reaffirming this food fear by telling you that you need to follow some restrictive diet, like the low FODMAP diet or the GAPS diet or the specific carbohydrate diet, the paleo diet, the keto diet, like all the freaking diets, right? And this further reiterates this fear that you're having of food being the problem, and therefore I need to take out all these foods. Okay, so the health industry is also not healthy or helping, because they are instilling this food fear and fear mongering on whole healthy foods. They're not, talking about, oh, you shouldn't eat a Big Mac. No. They're like, oh, don't eat kale, it's high in goitrogens, or don't eat grains, they're tough to digest, don't eat lectins, don't eat this food, don't eat garlic and onions, they're high in FODMAPs. Like, this is fucked up. This whole process, this whole thinking doesn't make sense. Okay, here's why. It's like saying, my car isn't working properly, my engine's just not been running properly, I'm just going to not put gas in the tank. Said no one ever. Right? It's like, my gut's hurting, I feel like I'm reacting to food. Instead of dealing with the gut or fixing the engine, so to speak, we're just going to starve it. We're just not going to eat the foods. We're going to start taking out all the foods and put less gas in the tank. That'll fix it. Nope. That's why that's not working for you, right? So this whole concept is flawed to begin with. And that's why it's really important when we talk about eliminating food fear and food restriction, that we understand the root of it is really coming from food being blamed. And it's this whole false perception of the body. Food is not the problem. Your gut is, which we're going to talk about. Okay, so That's the whole thing. There's all these diets going on. I think it's really important to touch on what the consequences are of this fear-mongering around healthy whole foods, is that it creates disordered eating, guys. I mean, 1 second fats are bad. Oh, if you've had your gallbladder removed, you shouldn't touch any fats. If you are bloating, oh, you shouldn't have any grains. If there's all of these, it's always something's being blamed. And it gets to a point where you're scared to eat at all. And I see so many clients come into our Love and Trust Your Guts program who don't want to eat. And as a consequence, they're nauseous. They literally feel sick to their stomach. They're dizzy, they're lightheaded, they're exhausted, they're moody, they're snapping at their kids and their husbands and their wives. It's a mess because they're starving themselves, because they're terrified to eat, because they don't know what's going to cause a reaction. That's the problem with this whole premise. The whole premise of this food being the problem. Here's another sign that food is not actually the problem. And I see this a lot, and I actually hear it from people. They'll say to me, Alyssa, I don't understand. I can't figure out what food is causing my symptom. Guys, let me know if this is you, because I know some of you guys watching this, you're going to be like, oh shit, she just called me out. That's me. So I hear this a lot from people. Let me know in the comments if this is you. People say, I can't figure out what food is causing the problem. I eat something one day, I feel totally fine. Eat it the next day, and I feel like I'm going to die, or I feel like I am 9 months pregnant. The symptoms flare up. And so they're having a hard time figuring out what food is the problem, because food isn't the problem. Their gut is. And again, it's this whole, we need to flip this on its head. So let's talk about the fix. How do we overcome these food fears, and how do we overcome the food restriction? The very first thing we have to acknowledge, I've touched on it briefly, but I'm going to sing it till the cows come home, right? Food is not the problem. We have to acknowledge food is not the actual problem. Your gut is. And I'm going to prove it to you right now, okay? Again, you would never say, my engine's not working, I'm just going to not put gas in the tank. We have to figure out why the engine's broken, why your gut is broken. So your gut is more likely struggling to break those foods down. Makes sense, right? If when you're eating, your gut can't break those foods down, then you're going to get a reaction. But was that reaction because it was the food itself, or was it because you're depleted in enzymes potentially, and that's what's preventing you from breaking those foods down? So the actual problem is that you may potentially be chronically low in enzymes that are preventing you from breaking down your foods. And so again, food is not the problem, your gut is. We have to fix your gut. That's what we got to do, okay? There are many things that can be happening in your gut, damage and deficiencies that can cause or elicit a response to food. It's not the food, but it could be bacteria reacting, not enough enzymes, not enough good bacteria. Did you know your good bacteria actually help you to break down your foods as well? You can have mineral deficiencies that can be impacting how you're processing your foods. There's so many contributing factors here, guys, and that's why I want you to open your mind beyond food, and let's get beyond the blaming of food. Let's look at what the actual problem is and work on that level. And that immediately is going to just lighten this pressure, like, I don't need to stress so much about every single bite that I'm putting in my mouth. You don't need to. You don't need to. We've got to work with the gut and then have fun with food again. So the second thing that we need to focus on to overcome the food fear and food restriction is reintroduction of foods. So when clients come into our program, we're focusing on the reintroduction of foods because most people come into our program, they're not eating enough food. They're not eating enough food. You're probably not eating enough food if you're watching this. Okay. And it's not just about the quantity of food that you're eating, but the different food categories that you're eating. And so this is why we teach our clients how to properly nutrition pair. So it's not about taking foods out, it's about teaching you how to properly pair these food groups together so that you can maximize your healing and also prevent yourself from doing more damage to the gut than good. You see, what happens is when you're struggling with your tummy, most people end up resorting to what I call their safe foods. It's usually carb based. And so a lot of people end up overeating their carbs, under eating things like protein and vegetables because they're scared of what's going to cause a reaction. And so again, the goal is about reintroducing and properly pairing these food groups together so that you have enough fuel in your gas tank. Now, I hear you guys. You guys are watching this. You're like, that's great, Alyssa, but I'm still fucking terrified to eat the food. Here's how you work with this, okay? It's literally baby stepping. There's this underlying little voice in your head, the fear that's like, don't eat the food. What if there's a reaction, right? It's going to try and talk you out of trying anything new. And so the first thing that you have to do is slowly integrate things in so that you don't, scare this little piece of yourself. You don't want to go too fast, too far, too fast. Otherwise, you're going to get all of the resistance and you're going to probably freak out and stress about all the symptoms. That's not helpful. So you need to pick one food, just one food. Okay. And you're going to focus on adding in that one food in one small amount in one meal and then let it be for 3 days. Just let it be. You introduced a food. You don't need to overthink it. If you're going to overthink it, you are stressing your body out and literally stopping your enzyme production just like that. Okay, so that is also part of the problem. Stressing about it is not helping. So just by introducing one food in a small amount in a controlled situation when you're at home, you can safely introduce a food without having to worry about these other variables like being out while you're with friends. And eventually what happens is you'll eat a food and you'll be like, holy shit, I survived. I'm fine. I actually, that was an okay experience. And this little voice that's sitting on your shoulder will start to become more comfortable. So then we repeat it again. You add in a different food, just one new food at a time. And then again, let it sit and move on. Okay, so the process here is about unpacking the overwhelm, but doing it in such a slow and subtle, safe way that you're not flaring up the fear and resistance within yourself. And then we, again, at the same time, need to get going and working on your gut so that you're actually breaking those foods down properly. Does this make sense, guys? Okay, I'm seeing some questions in the comments. Lenora, what do you do when you have bloating and fullness from gluten? Don't eat the gluten. I mean, gluten is super inflammatory. If you're eating it and you're getting bloated, your body is telling you, please don't eat that. So it really can be as simple as that. Now, the big thing here is, when we talk about food fear and food restriction, it's not about not listening to your body. Right? Your body will tell you there are some foods where it will be, this is an inflammatory food. I can't break this down. Please don't eat it. But you have to be able to tell the difference. And here's where it gets to be too far. Gluten, dairy, sugar, those are the 3 inflammatory foods you need to worry about. Nothing else beyond that. Anything else beyond that, we are dealing with some other underlying condition like enzyme issues, bacterial issues, histamine responses, and that's when you need to get working inside the gut. Does this make sense, guys? So the concern becomes when I see people terrified to eat garlic and onions. They're terrified to eat broccoli. They're terrified to eat artichokes. They're not eating sweet potatoes or brown rice or quinoa, like good, whole, healthy foods. They're scared to eat. If you've gotten to that point, you've swung too far to the other end of the pendulum. We need to land in the middle here. So dairy, gluten, sugar, that's all you need to worry about. If you're eliminating more than that, then that's when this talk definitely applies for you. And we need to bring it on back to the middle. All right, Tina. I'm taking living life 9 probiotics and feel a lot better, and reintroduced foods in small amounts. I only eat 5 foods, but I'm up to 10 to 15 now. After the 7-week antibiotic treatment with diflucan for the last 45 days, flare up and barley, or I think you mean barely, no food. It was rough. Yeah. So think about it this way, guys. Again, if your body, or if you're going to go on a road trip, you can't go on an empty gas tank. If your body's trying to heal, it cannot heal on an empty gas tank. And so again, this whole concept of you're trying to fix your gut, and therefore we're going to restrict. There we go. Getting a phone call from my sister. I'm going to have to give her shit because I told her I'm doing the dang Facebook Live. I'll call you when I'm done. Okay. I just lost my train of thought. If you are, if you're healing, you're trying to heal, and the whole concept, or the whole, I guess, foundation you're working off of is elimination and restriction. Guys, that's just simply starvation. So I'm going to reiterate, if you've eliminated beyond dairy, gluten, sugar, that is starvation, and we're going in the wrong direction, because ultimately the goal, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding, you guys are hanging out with me. If you're hanging out with me, you know my goal is to help you regain quality of life, right? That's the ultimate goal, is you want to be able to feel normal again. And so if you're following a restrictive diet to the point where you can't go out and be social, you can't go to a restaurant, you feel like there's nothing for you to ever eat, you're having to cook separate meals for yourself versus your family, that is not regaining quality of life. That's not. It's borderline eating disorder. That might sting a little bit to hear. This is the problem with fear mongering of food that's happening on the World Wide Web right now. It's creating disordered eating. And you can have a disordered relationship with food even if you are sticking to super clean, healthy foods. So make sure that you guys are, whatever direction you're moving in, it is helping you regain quality of life. Does that sound fair? If you're not feeling like, I feel great, I feel happy, I feel fulfilled, all of the good stuff, mentally, emotionally, physically, then we're moving in the wrong direction and we got to make some changes. Okay, Lenora, I have no gallbladder. Yeah, girl, that kind of stinks. We can't reinstall the gallbladder, but no worries. Again, first thing that you get told when you get your gallbladder chopped out is the doctor's going to be like, oh, just don't ever eat fats. You'll be fine. Then you go home, your gut doesn't really ever settle back down. Sometimes it gets worse. And in most cases, people end up in raging diarrhea. They can't ever calm it down. And the doctors are like, well, these are just the cards you've been dealt. Go home, right? Who here has been told that before? Fats are not the problem. Yes, you're going to need some support in digesting fats, but you need fats if you plan on having the ability to think straight. Fats are what fuel your brain. So don't panic, Lenora. You're all good. Make sure you're still eating a properly balanced meal. Again, this is where we teach our clients nutrition pairing, so you guys know how to get each of the categories in to be properly fueled. Okay, Jennifer, do acid reflux medicines make digestion worse? How do you get off them? That's a great question. I'm not going to dive into that in too much detail because that's a whole other dang talk. But what I will tell you is, yeah, they cause damage. They can cause all sorts of things like kidney issues and ulcers. And 90% of the time, most people are not actually in excess of stomach acid. Most people are depleted or low in stomach acid. How do you get off of them? That's a loaded question. We walk our clients through fixing their gut. And if you ever decide you want to come off your medications, you would work with your doctor on that. Lenora, what can I drink to or take to help kickstart? I'm not sure what you mean by that. What are you trying to kickstart? Tina, your videos have helped me so much. I don't let food control me anymore. I try one new food a week. Awesome, girl. Way to go. Patricia, I have no problems with eating different foods. I'm on a gluten-free, no dairy or sugar, but I still can't go to the bathroom for 3 to 5 days. You must feel really bloated. I do apple cider vinegar and flax seeds every morning. Do I need enzymes? I don't know. We need to test you. I can't answer that because we need to test you. But what I can say is I'm really glad that you found some balance and peace with food. And from there, remember, we still have to go in and fix the reason why this stuff is happening. And those things, those answers come from the damage and deficiencies within your gut. This is the kind of thing that we help you sort through in our Love and Trust Your Guts program. If you need support or have questions, just private message us, and we can get you some support from there and figure out maybe what testing you might need to get some clarity. The bloating. Yeah, Lenora, what I would suggest, jump over to our YouTube channel, Alyssa Labrak Gut Expert, and we've got some videos on bloating, quite a few of them actually. So if you just search our channel, do bloating, you'll be able to find lots of details on there. Other than that, guys, I know you guys have lots of questions. We might have to do an Ask Me Anything Facebook Live / YouTube Live. I'm gonna have to do YouTube Live for all you people catching this on replay on our YouTube channel, because you guys have some really great questions. So maybe we'll think about doing that. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you guys have an awesome night. Baby steps. Slowly work in these foods. Remember, food's not the problem, your gut is. So no need to fear food. Okay, just fix your gut. All right, guys, bye.